Hi, I'm Robbo.
And I'm Trav. Welcome to the Winners of Sheffield podcast.
We'll be interviewing local boxing royalty Glyn Rhodes MBE, who fought 35 amateur fights before turning pro 45 years ago in 1979.
Glyn fought an impressive 65 bouts in his 14-year career as a pro, winning 33, 20 by knockout, losing 27 and drawing 5. For the last 30 years, Glyn has run his own gym, the Sheffield Boxing Centre, which is based on Burton Road in the S6 area of Sheffield. During that time, the gym has trained tons of boxers, including some who have actually fought for world titles, such as Clinton Woods.
Glyn was made a member of the British Empire in the late Queen's 2013 New Year's Honours List.
From his candid book, Beyond Good and Evil, Life in Boxing, it's clear that Glyn speaks from the heart and says what he thinks, so we can't wait to get the interview started. Episode 2 of the Winners of Sheffield podcast.
Let's get ready to rumble!
So Glyn, thanks for joining us on the Winners of Sheffield podcast. Really appreciate you giving us your time, and obviously you're a fantastic gym here as well. We got, as always on every podcast, we just start from the beginning, right the way back to the beginning.
Very beginning.
Very beginning.
Oh,
just tell us about, if you can, briefly, your upbringing, your school life. How was that for you?
I was born in Attercliffe,
Yeah.
believe it or not. You can't recognise it from what it used to be when I was there were back-to-back houses.
Right.
Now there's a lot of industrial units, so I was born at Attercliffe. From Attercliffe, as a 3-year-old, I moved up to Firth Park with my grandparents. Me, my mum, and my granddad all together. I went to Bucklow Road Junior and Infant School. From there, I left there and went to, it was strange, I went to Firth Park School.
Right.
All my friends went from Bucklow Road School to Hindhouse. Because my mum had moved to the Sheffield Lane Top, she'd remarried. And they lived at Sheffield Lane Top. I ended up in a Firth Park School, which is daft because it's at Sheffield Lane Top. They call it Firth Park School.
Yeah.
So it was a big thing for me because all my friends who had grown up with from being at infant school, 5-year-old to 11, had gone to this Hindhouse school, and then I'm at a new school. I know many people there at all. Obviously make friends pretty quick, but as an 11-year-old kid going to a new school, a senior school, I remember it was daunting, it was scary. But you soon fit in. I remember the very first day, as a kid when I grew up, you always knew that when you went to senior school, if you got in trouble, you got caned.
Yeah.
People still getting caned. The first day, the first hour at senior school, I got caned, and they absolutely frightened me to death. There was a thing in the hall, and the headmaster used to put his notes on it, it had wheels on it. So I ran from one end of the hall to the other and jumped on it. As I stopped at the door, the headmaster walked through the door and I get to my office, and I thought, oh, so I went to his office, and after he finished, he come in, bend over, frightened me to death. And I'd never been hit with a stick before on my backside, and that was my first day at senior school.
What challenges do you think you faced in your younger life?
You face many challenges, we all do, don't we? No matter what walk of life you grow up, I think just growing up is a challenge.
But you didn't have a father, did you?
No, I didn't have a father. My role model at the time was my granddad. They were me and my mum and my granddad all lived in the same house together. My granddad was the old school, went to school with a tie on, went to work, wore a tie, worked in the steelworks, ex-army, didn't talk about anything. Like a man's man, you didn't. If I had a problem, I wouldn't have gone to my granddad and said, whatever, I'd gone to my grandma. I remember a few years ago I said to my mum, when you got pregnant with me, she was young, how did you tell your parents? How did you tell your mum and my granddad? She says, I didn't. She said, I told my mum. And then the mum told the granddad, and then whatever. Men back in them days, they all served in the army, and they were like, I don't know if it's the right thing to say, but men's men, went to work, had any problems, you went to your grandma or you went to your mum, you didn't go to your dad, did you, or your granddad, because they just, nobody talks about it. I mean, another thing, like I said, my granddad served in the Second World War. I learned more about his army days after he died, and reading things that my grandma had said, and now I think to myself, And I'd love to sat down with him and said, hey Grandad, when you did this, when you did, you know, he served abroad, nobody ever talked about it. So it weren't a thing then that men just didn't talk about it. Obviously they still had this, you know, they suffered from PTSD, they still had them things, but people didn't know what it were back then. So, you know, you can't come back from Second World War having seen atrocities and things like that and just drop into, you know, normal everyday life. That's what a lot of men did. They came back, and you know, places like Middlewood, you know, people used to get sectioned and locked up because they've got something going on in their head, and people didn't know what it were. People didn't know about I don't know, PTSD and these sort of things back then. It's only recent, in the last few years, that people have realised that, you know, it's I don't know. Like I said, I didn't know until what happened with me and Scott and things, but. Men need to talk about things. Men, you know, I know it's hard. I know it's hard for men to talk about things because you have to keep this image up. That, you know, especially in the boxing game, with big, tough, strong men, aren't we? Oh yeah, we're not. So I don't know. I just think more men need to talk about what's going on upstairs, and then fingers crossed.
I mean, Glyn, I've spent the last couple of weeks reading your book, so I'll take the opportunity to plug it for
Thank you.
Beyond Good and Evil.
It's doing very well.
And I'll be honest with you, I read the first half a lot of books. I don't often get to the end, but I've finished it within a couple of weeks, so kudos to you.
Thank you.
I mean, the book, you've touched on it, which is why I jumped in there. The book starts and ends with sort of mental health and your own mental health struggles. Do you think enough's done? I know you sort of said that we talk about it a lot now, but it does feel like a lot of talk sometimes rather than, you know, I know you've tried to do stuff in the communities.
We're still doing stuff, we're still doing it, we're still like encouraging people to talk about it. It's a tricky one because, you know, what's the answer? Where do you go to? Who do you talk to? You know, you go to your doctor and say, well, the first thing they'll do is stick you on antidepressants. Or, I don't know if that's good. You know, trying to get on the waiting list to speak to a psychiatrist or a trained person, that's hard unless you could afford it like I did, and I went, you know, paid for it myself. It's a hard question.
So instead of prescribing drugs, surely doctors should be prescribing, you know, when was the last time you went out and did some exercise? You know, when was the last time you saw the sun first thing in the morning?
I agree and I disagree, because when you're depressed, the last thing you want to do is go out of your house and do some exercise. Or, you know, when I was struggling, I didn't want to come out of the house. I didn't want to come out of the house, I wanted to just stay. There were times when I didn't want to get up. I wanted to stay in bed. And what you do, you know, you get under the quilt, you know, you get in fetal position, you just sit there, and it's kind of like, it's not comfortable, but you feel maybe safe, I don't know. As for going out of your house and speaking to people and getting some exercise and talking, it's the last thing I want to do.
But do you not think if you'd have done it, that probably would have been the start of the end of it?
I just had that conversation with him this morning. You need to kick yourself up the arse and say, look, I've got to do it, and get out. And when you've done it, you feel so much better. You know, something happens in your head when you're training. You know, I'm not intelligent enough to know what it is, but you release things in your head, endorphins of them. They're the things that make you feel, you know, good. So after you've done a good walk, you might be tired, or a good training session, but you know, you go home feeling absolutely shattered, but you also feel good. And as for the answers to it, I don't know what the answers are.
You know, for when you said you had days where you were in the duvet,
Yeah.
and you didn't want to go out, did you have, what kind of support, we asked someone else this earlier, what kind of support did you have for yourself and like your friends, your family, within the boxing community? Did you have that support?
Yeah, that was it. I you know, not my kids, I've got 2 kids, and you don't want to put a burden on them. You know, I didn't want to tell my kids about what I'm going off in there, because you're the dad, so you don't want to kind of like put it on their toes. The most support I got until I went to see the woman is in here, and this is in the book. The reason I ended up going to see this woman is I've got a mate in here whose cup I've got here, by the way. I don't know where my own cup's gone. And he's a man's man, if that's what you want to call it. And he was he was the one that said to me, he said, you need to go and see somebody. He says, I've been. When he said that, I kind of like went, you? He's like, he's flat nose, he's got a skin head, he's tattoos, he's that kind of man. When he said to me, he said, I've been, I kind of like, a little light bulb went on in my head, and I said, oh, I want to know a bit more about this, explain a bit more to me. So we started talking, and then that planted the seed where I thought, you know what, if Matt can do it, I need to do this. But again, you put it off, and then when you have a bad day, you go, right, I'm going to do it, and it gradually drifts away, and then when it bites you on the horse again, you go, right, I'm going to do it. But luckily, my support system were in here. But there'd be days I walk upstairs, and you had to be like the happy sad clown. I'd walk upstairs feeling shocking, I think I couldn't do it not being here today. And then I'd open the door, and I'd have to go, right, come on everybody, here we go. Yeah. And then, whenever he's gone, he'd close the door, I'd get home, I'd lock the door, and I'd think, what's going on? And it just goes on. One of the things I always used to say to people is, me personally, all I wanted to do, I just wanted to take my brain out one day, take it out of my head, just put it on the side, just let me have a rest. Because what was going through my head were 24/7, honestly, were 24/7. I'd be functioning here and doing pads and doing, but all the time, you're still thinking about the same thing. And I just thought, give me a rest.
What were your coping mechanisms at home then when you were on your own thinking that? Because it can go either way, can't it?
Yeah, like I said, my kids were a big help. My parents live, I've got a little granny flat above my garden, my parents, so I'm around people a lot. But again, sometimes you don't want to be around people. Like you're saying, you've got a good support system of people and friends, but sometimes you don't want to be around them people. There were times I didn't want to be around anybody. I didn't want to be, I'd come in here and I'd be on my own and be just pottering about. So it's alright saying you've got a good circle of friends, or a good family bit. I didn't want to be around anybody some days, and then you got other days and you think, I need to talk to them today. And that's when you realise that, and then you go on YouTube and you Google things, and the worst thing you can do is that Google on YouTube, isn't it? Because whatever you Google,
10 times later.
and you've got it, and then you come off that and you think, that's me. So, like I said, I made the decision to make a phone call and go see that woman. It's the best thing I ever did. I'm still not better. I don't think you'll ever get better. I don't think you're ever going to get better. But what it is now, it's like coping mechanism. Like you say, when you're having a good day, great. When you're having a bad day, it's a bad day.
Recognise.
You recognise it, whereas before, I didn't. And when people, I'm same as everybody else. When people used to say to me things, I was one of them people. I'd say, pull yourself together. Man up. Yeah. And I think sometimes, listen, I might get in trouble for saying this. Sometimes there is a place for that. Yeah. Sometimes, I have to say it to myself sometimes. But it's knowing when to say it and who to say it to. And you could tell some people, send them over the edge. But I've had friends commit suicide, and these again, I never saw that coming. So I don't know. I haven't got the answers to that one.
I don't think anyone has.
No,
but it's good that we can all sort of talk about it.
I'd go to bed tired and I think, please, don't let me wake up at 3 or 4 o'clock. And guess what?
You do.
I'm telling myself, it's what I'm doing, I'm telling myself, please. So you're laying in bed, I'm laying in bed, and all of a sudden it's pitch black and your eyes are bing, and you go, what time is it? And you look at,
I'm one of them where I'll wake up and like you said, I'll think, don't look at watch, don't look at watch. And then you look at watch. And that's it, and it's like, as soon as my missus wakes up, I'm like, been awake since 3 this morning.
You're thinking, I've got an hour to sleep, then you're thinking,
and then you can't sleep.
Then you can't sleep.
The more you try to force yourself to sleep, you can't sleep.
Because the brain's not relaxing, which is all part of sleep.
It's all, I've tried all that breathing and relaxing, and I've done all, but it's more. It's whatever works for you in it. And sometimes
it's great we've covered the mental health aspect, but let's go to where we are now and how it started for you as a boxer. How did you start as a boxer? What made you want to become involved in boxing?
Well, I hang around with a lot of kids, and I've often said this, we were hanging around the street corners. We weren't like kids these days. We had a little gang, but we were scallywags, and we all thought we could have a fight. We all thought we could fight. Obviously, we couldn't. There was a gym not too far from where we lived on Newman Road called St Thomas's Boys Club, and it was run by a guy called Brendan. Now, the only guy I'd ever heard, the only person I'd ever known called Brendan was a runner, Brendan Foster.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of a guy called Brendan before, so anyway, we went down to his gym thinking we were going to walk in and just showed his boxers, you know, how we are, we can have a fight. And we walked in and got this crazy Irishman, you know, getting on lines, stood on lines, doing things. I'm thinking, straight away I thought, this guy cracked up with that, what's he doing? Anyway, we went, we sparred, I sparred with a kid called Walter Clayton, I still see to this day. Little did I know at the time was junior ABA champion, a bit smaller than me, a bit younger. I remember Brendan saying to me, right, you can spar with him, you can hit him, and he'll not hit you back. And I'm thinking, is this guy mad? Does he know I can have a fight? That's what he said. So anyway, off I went like a windmill and walked to Clayton and just made me look right more. But something inside of me, kind of like, I don't know.
Like a switch.
Yeah, I went, I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to do what he's done to me, to other people. Honestly, made me look like...
Give you that buzz kind
Yeah.
of thing, yeah.
So slowly but surely my friends dropped off, you know, and I think there were three of us, Pete Bradford and mate Darren Wright, a lot of us started. Gradually, one by one dropped off. And then I didn't drop off, I carried on going to this church hall called St Thomas's Boys Club. And then the things that Brendan was saying then, I'm not saying it made sense, but I'd never met anybody like him before. He used to take us for walks. And I'm like...
You mentioned that in the book.
Yeah. So,
and you do that now?
we don't say, I don't say everything. Listen, so we just go for a walk, and as you're walking, I don't know, you're talking and you're just talking. And no adult man had ever done that. I mean, I remember walking to the club with my granddad on a Sundays because he used to work in Man's Club and walking, but he always just walk fast. You know, them soldiers walk. He used to walk a bit slower on my own because he'd had a drink, but no, I'd never gone for a walk with men before and talking about things, and he'd show us things. Not all boxing, we weren't all boxing. And I remember Brendan Ingle taught me how to mix concrete. This crazy Irishman started taking his walks and doing things, and nobody had ever done that before. As well as teaching you to box, teaching you other things. Like I said, his favourite thing at the time was a thing called secret training. He'd have you doing something, and he'd call it secret training, when really you were just like cheap labour or whatever. But while you're doing all this secret training with him, he's talking to you and you learn.
Like Mr. Miyagi from Karate.
Yeah, that's it, wife on, yeah. And that's how he started. And then he says, I think it's about time you have an amateur fight, and you know, that's what you want to do. And that's it, and then off you go. And
How does it feel ahead of that first amateur fight?
I think I won about my first 10 amateur fights. My first fight was in Leeds at Meanwood Working Men's Club. And I just remember thinking, no matter how much sparring you'd done, I remember thinking at the end of the third round, I can't believe that a human being can be so exhausted. I was absolutely...
How old were you then?
16. I was absolutely wrecked. And I thought, 3 rounds. And I'd started reading boxing books since then. And I remember talking about people boxing 15 rounds. And I remember leaning on the ropes at the end of the fight, absolutely knackered. Brendan saying to me, stand up, stand up, stand up. Stand up, because I'm just dead. And he's telling me to stand up, stand up. And I'm thinking, bloody hell. But that's nerves.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's a lot of nervous tension and things like that. So I think I won about the first 10, and then I got stopped in the first round, and I was devastated. And then it just went on. I had 35 amateur fights, never won anything as major, you know, didn't win no amateur titles or anything like that. But I enjoyed the process of going to shows in minibuses and your mates and having a laugh. And slowly but surely what started happening is the mates that I grew up with, I got a new circle of friends, the boxing friends. Yeah, yeah. So all them people that, you know, I grew up with from school, and you kind of left them a bit behind. But still let now and again went back, but I got a new circle of friends now who were my boxing mates, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I dread to think what I'd be doing now. I wouldn't say, you know, you always get a lot of boxers saying, oh God, if I had to box, I'd been in prison, I'd have been... I'm not saying that's what had happened to me. I've always been a bit reckless. So I dread to think what I'd have done. I don't know, but I'm just glad
It's bringing your life there as well.
Yeah,
really.
it's given me a comfortable lifestyle and everything.
Yeah. So obviously you're talking there about the legendary Brendan Ingle. Who in your opinion, would you say is the best boxer that came through?
Come from there,
Brendan?
You know the answer. Herol Graham. And the reason I'll tell you why it's Herol Graham. Right, he was the pioneer. Before Herol Graham came to Sheffield, as a 16-year-old kid winning the ABAs, yeah, they were boxing in Sheffield with Mick Mills, Chris Walker, John Kelly, Lloyd Stewart, a couple more. But there weren't anybody who were filling City Hall. And like I said, Brendan put a shot at Brown Lane before Kelbrook even boxing. So Herol Graham were like filling City Hall back then. You know, some of the fights he boxed a 15 rounder. He beat Pat Thomas over 15 rounds. So he started all that off, and all the hands down style and everything. He started it, and everybody's come since. And you know, Johnny and Naz and Ryan and all these guys have come since him. For me personally, and I'm his mate. I spoke to him yesterday. He's the man that started it all in Sheffield for me. And Brendan took it to another level. You know, there's a lot of people say, oh, it's the Brendan Ingle style boxing. Personally, it's the Herol Graham style boxing. But what Brendan did, he tweaked it, and he had your lines and and he took it to a next level. So, me personally, Herol Graham's.
I mean, I remember in the book you mentioned that you were at one of his fights, and you heard somebody say, he fights just like Naz.
Yeah.
And,
that were at Elephant and Castle. And I was sat there, and this woman, she said, oh, he boxes just like Naseem Hamed. And I thought, I had to say, you know, it's the other way around. It's not. On his comeback, when making his comeback, and I had to inform this woman that, look, it's the other way around. It's not Naz. It's not Bomber copying Naz. It's Herol Graham. He's the pioneer. He started all this. She was all right. She didn't know. It's like kids coming in now, and a kid came over the week, and I said, I was stood on that Muhammad Ali sign, and I said, who's your favourite boxer? And he said, Jake Paul. Oh man. Move on. We're wasting time.
You
talking that shit.
With Herol Graham, you were never happy with him being called the Bomber, were you?
yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah.
No.
One of the questions I was going to ask.
A lot of people call him Bomber because you got Joe Louis the Brown Bomber and things like that, but he weren't called Bomber.
Well, what I was going to ask is, obviously you were never happy with him being called Bomber.
Yeah.
Someone in his fighting style, what would you say was a more apt nickname?
Will o' the Wisp. You know, if you ever, there's a fight called Willie Pep, and he used to move. He told, apparently, it's quite well documented, he told these reporters one day, he said, I'm going to win a round, but I'm not going to throw a punch. So I watched the fight, and what he's doing is basically fainting and moving and just touching that out, and he won the round. But when they watched it back, he never actually threw a punch, and they call him, the Will o' the Wisp. He couldn't get hit. I mean, so Herol Graham more of a Will o' the Wisp type for me. You know, don't get hit, he'd do anything not to get hit, rather than being the Bomber type. You know, the Bomber.
He's a bit like that. The chap who lost to the Sheffield lad, is it Whittaker?
Junior Witter.
No, not Junior Witter. Is it Ben Whittaker?
Ben Whittaker.
And, you know, like it's all. That's all well and good until you get caught.
To do that style.
Fury's
I mean,
a bit like that, isn't he?
yeah, but
Fury, a bit like
yeah.
that.
Disjointed. Listen, if you look through history, how many people have had a successful boxing career with that style? There's not many. There's not many have been very, very successful, and you always seem to find that, you know, when they step it up, you get found out.
Yeah, you get.
I'm not a big, although I used to have my hands down because I wanted to be Herol Graham. Obviously, don't look at my face compared to his, but you know, I always say, look, if somebody's punching you in the face, you want your hands up here. And I know it don't matter where your hands are when you get it on chain, it doesn't matter. But that style Herol's got, Naz, Johnny, Ryan, hands down, it's a dangerous style. That's why I don't teach that style.
So you were obviously the showboat, or Glyn Showboat Rhodes. Was that a Brendanism? Did he
yeah, Brendan named it, mate, but the reason he named me Showboat is because I always put it all kind of like I always used to put a show on. But the reason I used to put a show on and show off is because I was knackered. Because what had happened is I started boxing. Yeah, I was trying to finish some time. Then I started showing off, sticking my chin out, acting stupid, going for a walk. Basically, because I absolutely shattered. Because I never got along with training, and that's how the name Showboat coming in. You have to become it then. People expect it of you. So when I got in the ring, then I was already planning, right, what I'm going to do to show off, what I'm going to do to act stupid. And I lost so many fights through acting the clown instead of just getting on with it. But people often say to me, do you ever regret doing that sort of thing? And I said, no, because I enjoyed it. And I had a lot of fights, and you're not gonna have that many fights that I had if you don't enjoy it. No. So, you know, I enjoyed it, and I feel good with it.
How did you become into professional boxing, and how did you make that step up to become a...
Well, I tell you what happened, back in 1976, I think, amateur boxers couldn't train with professional boxers.
Right.
So the ABA said, right, anybody who trains with a professional boxer, you know, you can get banned, this, that, and Brendan carried on doing it for a long time, like I say, he had McMills and other fighters. So Brendan did it, and then somebody found out, so they banned Brendan and they banned the gym. So they banned St Thomas's. So basically everybody who were half decent, who were good enough to turn pro, Brendan said, look, we're banned now, so
It's your only option.
it's your only option. But if you're good enough to turn pro, Brendan said, look, he's been banned, so he turned pro, and everybody who were good enough to turn pro with him. Bomber, I think Bomber was the first. And we just tagged along on his shirt tails, you know, obviously Bomber at the top of the bill and then people had to go on the undercard. So that's how he ended up boxing pro. Like I say, you've got to look at the history of who was the top people when Herol was there. You know, you've got your Tommy Hearns, your Sheree Lenz, your Marvin Hagler, and Herol's up there with the best of them. And we're lucky enough to box on the undercard. I boxed on so many Herol's undercards in Sheffield. And it was great. Like I say, I look back, I've got so many fond memories about Herol boxing on these undercards in Sheffield. Because what used to happen is you go to the City Hall, it'd be an occasion. People would turn up you'd not seen for ages, and you know, women would be dressed up and all plastic gangsters would be there, and it was an occasion. So like I say, I owe Herol Graham a lot.
I mean, you mentioned you spoke to him recently.
Yesterday.
Yesterday. And obviously he was sectioned at one point. I had a quick Google yesterday, and it sort of said that I think that last year he was sort of trying to piece together everything was all good. Is he in a good place?
I spoke to him yesterday. You never know. Again, you talked about this earlier with the mental health thing. You never know. I spoke to him, and he sounded absolutely spot on.
You trained Michael Watson?
No, I was on the undercard when Michael Watson boxed Chris Huber when Michael Watson got injured. That was my first tragedy, so to speak. And then a few years later, Richie Wenton and boxed Bradley Stone. Bradley Stone died, and then a few years later again, you got the kid training here who beat Paul Ingle. Paul Ingle got injured, and then Jerome Wilson. And I think all these incidents happening kind of like stay with you.
So you've just boxed.
I just
Michael
boxed.
Watson come in, and then how did when you were boxing again, your next fight, was that in the back of your mind?
Yeah, it's always goes through the back of your mind. You know, even people who've not been involved in tragedies, you know, listen, you know what can happen when you box. You've got parents here saying to kids, oh, look, we're boxing. My mum used to say to me, oh, no, that kind of thing. My grandma used to say to me, oh, look at Muhammad Ali, look what he's done to him, and that was my grandma. Yeah. So, yeah, it's always in the back of your mind, but you kind of like shut it off. You know, you don't want to be going into boxing and think to yourself, I'm boxing this kid, but you know, I could end up dead. Because that's the wrong signals to be sending to yourself.
I think
so,
probably from the book, the biggest example of that is when Scott Wesgarth obviously passed away, and then very shortly afterwards, was it Tommy Frank?
Tommy Frank were in the ring boxing for the title.
I think that probably was...
Because
from the book you can tell you weren't
I weren't happy at all that night. Obviously, it's like, I don't know, you've got to get back on the horse, so to speak. So it's alright coming in here and putting this image on that you're alright, and nobody knows no different, but then actually going back to a ring and a boxing venue, and it's Tommy, and he won the area title that night, and I remember in the change room taking him on the pads, and I could feel myself, you know, it's building up inside, and like, just, hang on, that's enough, you're alright, I'm just going to the toilet, and you go, fucking hell, what's going on here? Then you wipe your eyes, you come out of the toilet, right, we're ready, keep warming up, taking on pads again, and again, it's, I remember walking to the ring, and looking at the ring, instead of looking at Tommy as he's looking at the ring, and it's like, it's haunting, I'm like, this is going to be the first
Do you think
time.
they could see that in you, the people you're working with, and Tommy?
No, I've asked Tommy, he couldn't remember, but I tell you one thing that did happen, there's a lovely picture down there. After the fight, Dennis Sobson had done a collection bucket for Natalie, and after they announced, after Tommy won, Natalie Scott's girlfriend, after the fight had ended, Tommy had won, and Dennis says, I'd like to thank everybody for donating, blah, 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 whatever, we've raised, whatever, and Tommy took the mic, and then, without telling me, Tommy just went like that to me and gave me the microphone. And I didn't want if he'd have said to me, I'm going to give you the microphone after, I might have prepared myself. But because it was the first fight that I'd been involved in since Scott died, climbing into a boxing ring again, you might think to yourself, you know, it's not, because it's the whole process of walking to a ring, climbing a ring. And you've got to understand, when Scott boxed, that's the picture of him there. He won. We're in the ring with his hand raised. And we were all happy and there. And then a short time after, you're in Allenshire Hospital and the doctor's telling you that, you know, he died on the operating table, and you go, what? Only what seems 2 minutes ago, I'm in a ring, and that picture, they were all like, so there's no time between, there's no time scale between, it was just one minute you're in a ring, next minute you're getting the bad news.
And that was off the back of a few other tragedies. You just split up with your life.
So, I got that drama, I've always got a drama, so there was that on the back of it. So it kind of like, I think it's like the straw that broke the camel's back. But I remember after that night Tommy won, and it was the first fight I'd ever been to since Scott had died. I remember getting in the ring after I'd come out and I thought, I've done it. I've kind of like, I crossed that hurdle, that's the first one, and I should be all right now, fingers crossed. It still goes through your mind, obviously. It's like, I don't know, riding a motorbike, having a motorbike, you know, if you crash your bike, you're going to think back in your mind, am I all right to get on the bike, you know, get back on the horse, so to speak. So, but that was the first one, Tommy. And like I say, you think you're all right, you put this image on that you're all right, but you're not. Nobody ever know. I mean, obviously your close friends and your family, maybe your kid, they probably know. And people who know you well know that what you're doing is just an image that you're putting on, isn't it?
I think that's everybody though.
Everybody,
Whether you're going with tragedy or
when you've had a bad day, you don't come out, you put this image on, I'm all right, you're all right.
You mentioned it earlier, particularly with, I mean, like, I remember a couple of years ago I lost my dad, and obviously it was very upsetting. I'm roaring my eyes out and what have you. And then when my girls are there, I'm like, you know, I can't be seen to be, you know, because I've got to stay strong for them.
I've got to be the rock for them, so to speak. But you know, every now and again, who's the rock for you? You know, you need somebody. You need somebody who you can like lean on and somebody you can talk to. It's hard. There's nothing in this game that I have not seen, I've not heard, I've not been through, from everything.
What made me laugh about the book actually is your life's been that sort of dramatic, like you mentioned before, that you getting hit by a car, well, like, blinking you'd miss it in book, it was like, oh, I got hit by a car in hospital for a few weeks, and I was like thinking, you know, we're not going to go into detail, what happened, you know, that was just like a sweeping statement. Oh yeah, I got run over on Friday night.
That's it, but big deal, I couldn't get home, but I laid up. So, hey, listen, getting hit by a car is nothing, is it? So it's one of them things. But again, going back to what we said, everybody seems to put this image on where everybody's all right. And just because people look all right, don't mean they're all right. You don't know what's going on in the background.
As I was reading the book, I was thinking, should be a movie this. So if there's a movie tomorrow, Glyn Rhodes, who's playing?
Who's playing me? Rhodes? Somebody like Robert De Niro. Virgin Bull. Yeah, I agree. It should be a movie. It should. I think that's a great idea. Robert De Niro playing my part. He's about 18-year-old, isn't it?
No, you need somebody younger than
that.
Young,
somebody like.
You haven't Sean Bean, aren't you? You haven't Sean Bean.
He's older than me, Sean Bean. He's about the same age. Sean's a good lad as well. He had to raise a lot of money when we did that exhibition at Answorth. And so we said, oh, we'll get Sean Bean to box you, but you can't hit him. You've got to make it look good. Just So I know, all right, we'll do it. And I've done it before.
How big is it? Because you're 5'11", is it smaller?
It's a bit smaller than me. So the deal with having to box Sean Bean and make it look good and make him look good, and it's like WWF wrestling, I'll go down. A few weeks before, he says, my agent or whatever has said, I can't do this in case I get tooth chipped because he's got a film coming up. But I've got somebody else for you. So I thought it might be one of these Hollywood superstars. It was his mate off at Answorth, who was about 20 stone, right? And he leaned on me in one of the rounds. The next day I come home, he'd done me back in. there's a picture of him down there as well, but it will go to raise a long way. We've done a few of them, like I said, did it against Tommy Craig. They're good, you raise a few quid. It's
In all the fights you had, who was your toughest opponent?
Oh, God, you always get asked that. Yeah, you know, when you say toughest, I remember boxing at Cafe Royal once in London, and a kid of box called Jimmy Brown, good fighter. And I remember, and I hated doing this, I had to stand and go with him, and stand and have a tear up, and I hated that style of boxing. I wanted to more jab and move kind of thing. And I remember after that fight coming around, it was an 8 round, I remember after that fight I was proud of myself, because I thought, you know what, give yourself a pat on the back, because when it comes to it, you can have a go if you really need to. And I thought, yeah, I found something out about myself that night, that if it comes to it, I can stand and have a go. Yeah. Whereas I'd always been jabbing and moving, keeping out of the way, but that particular night against Jimmy Brown, I taught myself, you know what, you've got a big pair of coconuts there, well done son. So,
best fight you trained?
I'd say Herol Graham first, but Herol, I didn't train Herol were already good by that time. The best guy I've ever trained, and an example that I always use to the kids in the gym, is Clinton Woods.
Yeah, I'm going to say, that comes across in the book as
and
well.
the reason Clinton Woods, I'm saying Clinton, is because I've had a brilliant journey with Clinton as well, and I'll go back to explaining to you what it is, but just let me get rid of it. Right. Because I first ever worked with Clinton for the Central Area title at Pine Grove Country Club, which is no longer there. I worked with Clinton for a couple of fights before, then he boxed Darren Little for the Central Area title. Then I worked with him in between when he boxed Mark Baker, and then his last fight in Miami on ESPN television for the world title. So what a journey he's had, and no disrespect to him, don't mind me Clinton, but he weren't the greatest, talented, but what he made up for were, he trained hard, he got a big pair of coconuts, he worked hard, and you know what, determination got him to where he got, you know, world champion. Discipline, just got on with it, again, not flash, nothing flashy about him, just got on with it, worked hard, did the job, a boxer's boxer, if you want to know what I mean. I mean, we all want to be Sugar Ray Leonard and Mohamed Ali, but Clinton Woods was a boxer's boxer, and I always use him as an example in there, and I'm proud to have been part of his journey, you know what I mean, like I said, area title, Pine Grove Country Club, and then world title in Miami. It's that's some journey for him, that, innit? So yeah.
So obviously you were trained by Brendan.
Yeah.
It went a bit sour when you decided to walk away from boxing, and I know it ended up a feud ensued for a while.
We had a long time where we didn't speak.
Yeah, but you kind of made it up towards the end of his life.
Which I'm glad to say.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing as well. Sorry. You know, people say you fell out with Brendan towards the end. I fell out with Brendan all my career.
Yeah.
So all my career, me and Brendan used to bang heads, because I obviously used to think I know more than him. And I'm having it with myself in here now with kids here. So we'd fall out all my career. I fell out with Brendan.
It's funny, because again, you know, I've been pretty much in the book for the last 2 weeks. And when I lost my dad, and it definitely comes across like a father figure, and it's like, I argued with my dad all my life. I've got 2 brothers, and out of all of them, I probably put my dad through the most, but I ended up being the closest with him, because, you know, I argued with him, and ironically now, I find myself agreeing with his, I used to argue with Toss with him all the time, and now he's not here, and I'm like, you were right about that.
You know, I'm saying.
I'd love him to be
around here, so you could say to him, you were right. Well, I'm the same, I find myself.
And I say it to my mum all the time, I'm like, my dad was right.
You're right then, yeah. And so you feel bad now that you were right then, you didn't tell him, or you were just banging heads. I'm saying, I use the same terms in here that Brendan used to use. I'm using them with my kids, and that's the best one. I've seen it all before. He always used to say with that Irish accent, I've seen it all before, you take bastard. He always called it, that. And I just think, what's he mean by that? Now I'm saying the same thing to these. I've seen it all before, listen, you can't pull the wool over my eyes, I've seen it all before. But it weren't that me and Brendan fell out to the end, we're always falling out, you know, for whatever reason.
So obviously you made up, or you know, certainly had a peace moment with each other.
Yeah, it was nice.
And then he sadly passed away, you know, not long after that, by the sounds of things.
Yeah.
You're obviously planning to go to the funeral.
Yeah.
You get a message. You're not welcome.
Well, the night before,
Yeah,
the night before.
that must have been a
Yeah,
dagger to the heart.
yeah. I've got my suspicions who were responsible for it and whatever. And I thought, you know, it was bad to not have me there, Naz not there, Bomber not there. We were the three people who were a big feature in Brendan's life as a trainer back then. But then there were people there. This is what really makes me sick, is some of the people who got him banned from the amateurs, when he got banned, they were at his funeral saying, Brendan was my best mate. I'm thinking, you're the people who got him banned. So, and I can name these people, I can name them, I can still see them, but so all the people who got him banned, right, they were at his funeral professing to be his best mate. And I'm thinking, shit houses. But then, like I said, me, Bomber and Naz weren't allowed to come or whatever, we weren't there. So, and to find out the night before, it were a bit of a kick in the nuts for me. Cause I tell you, or the Crucible, and obviously like now, texts are coming through, you can see the first line. So the first line what came through was, and I've got to slug it, my mum doesn't, so I thought, oh here we go, one of the kids at gym, my mum is. So in the interval, and we were watching, the thing that I think we were watching, was it?
One Flew
Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which one fit. There's a t-shirt with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I would call this place that, because it's a nut house. So when I got to the interval, I looked and it says, my mum doesn't want you to come, no, and it was from Brendan's daughter, and I thought, it's a bit strange. I'd never not got along with Brendan, Richie or Tara, I don't know how they thought about me. So I just thought, that's a bit bad that, because, like I say, we met up.
Well, you feel duty bound to.
Yeah, and I just thought, well, you know what, the strange thing about it is, by me, Naz and Bomber not going, it drew more attention to me, because people come up to me and said, why were you there? Where were you? You should have been. So
you then have to tell everyone.
Yeah. So there's somebody's going on behind, I don't know, whatever. But it drew more attention to me not going by than letting me go. Because if I'd gone, we'd have stood there, we'd have done what we did, and nobody would be no wiser. But people were coming up to you saying, you know, you should have been there. You Bomber should have been there. Naz should have been there. For all the faults that Naz and Bomber and Brendan had together, and me, we were part of this journey. All together, we were all part of Brendan's journey, he was part of our journey. So, like I say, luckily I got to bury the hatchet with him in the gym shortly before he died. We'd made friends before that, because we'd always like be passing. He'd be leaving the boxing shows, I was coming, and it was Killer who said, he said, I'll get you together. And so I thought, that was nice that. And I'd had run-ins with Dominic in the past, and so I thought, oh God, so I said to Killer, am I going to be alright? Yeah, he said, Dominic knows about it, come down. So I went down and it was lovely. And you see that picture, the black and white picture with Brendan in corner and me above the ceiling ball here?
Yeah.
I took that to him. Our amateur box there, that was Dial's working with
he signed it.
And I said, Brendan, do us a favour, we signed that, and he signed it, and I signed it. And that's one of the few pictures I've got of my amateur career with Brendan, I think in 1976. Well, I've got a vest on, so it will be. And I remember coming out of the building and thinking, you know what, that feels nice that I've put all the demons to bed. And whatever Brendan thought of me and what I thought of him, it didn't matter. It didn't matter, because whether he thought anything or I thought anything, it didn't matter. It doesn't affect my life, it doesn't affect his. But me personally, I ain't got nothing bad to say about Brendan. Best thing he ever did. So meeting him and checking hands, and he was good. I enjoyed it.
I mean, you mentioned a few feuds within the book. One being with Johnny.
Johnny had.
Have you two ever kissed and made up?
Yeah, recently Johnny had a party at the Cutters Hall, and Johnny, we ran bikes at 10 paces. It was nothing. We fell out of a Naz. Nothing happened. It was nothing. Like I say, ran bikes at 10 paces.
There's a good scene in the movie with De Niro.
Yeah, but
I don't know who played Johnny.
Johnny.
Yeah, I'm going to say.
So Johnny's another product of Brendan's. He's you know, if you look at him from what he started off to being and what he ended up, he's great. He's got himself a job commentating. He does speaking. He's great. Take away the fact, you know, people always mention certain fights, this, that, and other. You know, the kid was world champion. I was never world champion, so he's done a lot better than me.
That said, I mean, one of the questions I was just thinking when for somebody who left school with nothing really other than a good bunch of mates, you've got to look back now in your career and think you're proud of where
I've
you
been
are.
blessed, honest, I've been on about it this morning, I'm blessed with what I've done. Remember, when I retired at 33, I did not have anything, I was broke. I was borrowing money off my mum all the time. I borrowed money off my mum till my next fight. And then one day there's no more fights. So I can't go, Mum, can you borrow me a few £100 to my next fight? Because there weren't no more fights. So then, what do? You've got to get a job. I look at myself in that since 1993 to now, what I've got, what I've done, where I've been, what I've seen, what I'm all right. I'm more than all right. But yeah, obviously we've got the Bradley Stone, Scott Wesgarth incidents and everything, but generally speaking, if you look at the big picture, I've got people in
One of the questions I was going to ask you, I mean, you just brought around the tragic element of boxing. I mean, you've got now where they're bringing in, you can't head a ball in football. You know, boxing surely, if that, boxing's a bit like tobacco and alcohol in the sense that surely it'd be outlawed if it came around today. You know, if it were invented today, it'd be outlawed. So is its days numbered, do you think? Or,
no.
Or is there so much money involved?
Not necessarily the money. Listen, you never, since time began, there's always been two men who would have a fight on the street. You know, come on, listen, come on, step over, come on, then let's go for it like that. That's gone on forever.
I'm thinking of your granddad chinning that
Yeah,
bloke.
chinning that bloke. Yeah, you walk around just boom. Yeah, and that shocked me. So it's gone on forever. You're never going to ever get where two men don't want to fight, or you know, young men. Obviously, it's getting stupid nowadays where people get starved. I don't think it's ever going to go away, and you're never going to make it safe because punching people in the head is you know, somewhere down the line is going to be another tragedy. But you're never going to make it 100% safe because it can't possibly be 100% safe.
Yeah.
Getting in the ring, hitting somebody in the head, with things on your hands, that can't possibly be ever made 100% safe. You know, people often say to me, does your son box? I say, my son's not box, he's never had to box.
Would you be dead against it?
Yeah, I won't want him to box. I won't want him to box because he doesn't need to box, which is a smart kid. You know, he's a scientist, which is so you don't need to be a boxer if you're a scientist. I didn't have anything else. that I was good at. So all I had was boxing. Whereas, you know, some kids, it's not for them. But then there's other kids who it's all they've got. So me, it was all I had. I didn't have anything else. I can't go and get a job and be a pilot or anything. I couldn't do nothing. So for me, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. But would I want my son to do it? I don't think so.
So one thing that I wanted to ask everybody who we're having on the podcast, Glyn, is now that you know all about the Winners of Sheffield podcast, you know what it stands for, who do you think, somebody we probably don't know or haven't thought about, who do you think we should be getting in front of? Can you intro us to anybody?
Well, again, I'm a boxing person through and through, so I don't know footballers, I don't know anybody other than boxing. Two of the people I think you should get on is Bomber and Clinton. I'm sorry, I only know boxing people.
Who's your favourite all-time boxer? I think I know the answer.
Oh, you don't need to say, I've just come back on Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali for me, not just a boxer, for his humanitarian the things he did. And I always say to the kids in the gym, you've got to remember, he was the heavyweight champion in the world. And when he became a Muslim, when he converted to Islam, he was willing to give all that up. Yeah. How many superstars these days would give anything up for what they believe in? So he gave that up in the 60s when black people were getting shot in America, you know, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. He stood up and he said, I'm converted to Islam. So that's one of the things. Plus, look at the fights that he had, your phrases, your form. He's the best boxer ever lived. Nobody else will ever tell me anything. And that's why I'm a big fan of his. You know, and when you think about how he moved for a guy's size, you know, you try moving around in a ring bigger than this, and I don't know, I'm only 12 stone. Well, I could never do it for many rounds, but he used to do it for, you know, 10, 12 rounds. The fighters that he fought.
I mean, you've obviously met some boxing gods, really. Angelo Dundee, the River Duran. You've met Tommy and Zagler.
Duran, yeah.
I'm assuming you never met Ali.
Never met Ali.
Because you never
met Ali. I met everybody associated with him, Joe Fraser, George Foreman. I'd love to have met Muhammad Ali, but I'd like to have met him when he was Cassius Clay, when he was coming through that, coming through. You know, I remember we did an evening with Joe Fraser, and he came to the Hilton. I remember when he got out of the limo, I looked at him, I thought, God, he's small. Because obviously as you get older. So when we get to the Hilton, I'm in the lobby, I thought I'll carry his bags up to his room, and I'll go in the room with him, so he's somewhere in always. So I carry his bags up to his room, goes in the room, and you know the Hilton Hotel, he backs onto the canal. So when I go in his room, I put his bags down and says, okay, and he went to the window, he looked out the window, and I went, Joe, you know when you boxed Muhammad Ali first time at Madison Square Garden? And he just ignored me. And I thought, maybe he's deaf. So I says, yeah, when you boxed Muhammad Ali, and he just like, and he went to me, when do these boats go? And I went, I felt like saying, I don't, canal barges, aren't they? I went, oh, they sail up the river, and then he went, yeah, and I asked him another question, and he just like, it was like, Lennox Lewis is probably one of the, he's got some stories to tell.
Any good?
Yeah, he's got stories to tell.
You were on a boat with him?
Oh God, yeah, we went to, when I boxed Charles Brewer, we trained in Miami, in the same gym as Lennox Lewis, and then we flew up to Atlantic City. But just before we went, he took us all on a boat and we had a meal. It was nice. And, you know, I remember being on this boat. I've got pictures. I've seen the pictures. I'm just on a boat with Lennox Lewis. And all right, but then it started to look like you've got bloody hell. Bomber were on the undercard to the heavyweight championship of the world. So you're training in Miami, and in the gym, you're being trained by Manny Stewart, who's a legend in boxing. I'm sat watching him, and Herol Graham boxing in the same ring as Lennox Lewis. And you got to pinch yourself and go, bloody hell, we're out there. You know, running up and down Atlantic City boardwalk. It's hard to imagine. So again,
it's all level.
Well, I showed him a picture, and the picture is of me and him on a boat, and his mum. Right. And I just said to him, I said, do you remember this? And he went, wow. He went, wow. Obviously, it's his mum. She just happened to be on the picture. It's this boat that they were on. And I remember saying, wow, oh my, and he like took back. Because obviously people are going to say, you know, oh, remember when you boxed Angelo Field, and for me to show him a picture of his mom, it kind of like took him back.
Well, it's funny, you were obviously given the MBE by the then Prince Charles, now King Charles, but that wasn't the first time you met him, was it?
The first time I met him was here.
It was a bit of a palaver when
bit of a nightmare when he came here. We had a guy living here in what's now the toilet, used to be an empty room, this Russian guy. He had nowhere to sleep, so he was sleeping down there. We bought him a microwave and a telly, and he sat down there. So when the morning of the Prince's visit, you know, the security came, and they came through with the sniffer dogs and everything, and they wanted to know what was up that trap door. I went, I don't even know myself. So they just did a run through, and they blocked the street off at the top, blocked off the bottom. Everybody had to leave and then come back on if you had a pass. Right. Obviously, this guy's living in the little cupboard under the stairs, so to speak. So he was already here. So I remember we stood in the building, and it came across, right, he's just landed at Victoria Station. So I'm thinking, well, it's going to take 15, 20 minutes for him to get in. He was here like that, because obviously he don't stop at traffic lights. He don't, so next thing, the kid who was sleeping in the cupboard gets up and comes walking across. Oh, what's going on here? Can't speak very good English, you know. So, who is this guy? How's he broke? How's he gone outside? He's not gone outside. Oh, how's he gone? I said, they were already here. So I just show you that the security didn't do a very good job, did they? You know, the Labradors running around here sniffing everything. But yeah, so that was the first time I met him. That back then, that was a privilege for me then. I think I've not had this place long then. So to suddenly meet the now king back then, it was a big deal for me then. And to meet him again a few years later, that was you know, kind of like what he did to me then. It kind of like put me up there with Brendan, because at the time, I know there's lots of people now got these MBs, but at the time for boxing in Sheffield, there wasn't Brendan. So for me to receive the MBE then, it kind of like put me in the same thing as Brendan, which was a great privilege, if you know what I mean. So it was special. It was special.
I heard you have a lot of young people coming through here, regular sessions. Is that What's your message to them coming through here? What information you pass on to inspire them to become either not just boxers but in the community in general? What your overall message and inspiration to them?
Well, I'm a perfect example. Like I said, I've said this on many occasions. It's easy to be successful if you're Naseem Hamed, Herol Graham, Johnny. It's easy to be successful, but you've got to look at me. I didn't reach the heights that they reached, but I've still become what I call successful. So I said to the kids in the gym, you've not always got to become world champion to make boxing work for you and become a success. No, look at me, I'm a perfect example. So, you know, just by boxing, it teaches you, you know, if you can climb in a boxing ring, everything else is easy after that. You know, going for interviews and meeting people and talking, it's easy. So boxing can take it to another level. So, like I said, we just had a kid, Reece Man. See that red jump road here? He did so many.
Yeah,
he's just not qualified. I don't know what the word is. But he's a Marine. He's become a Marine. And when he was training, he was just a little skinny kid. Had a few on the charts. He had to go away, put some weight on, do some weight, and he just graduated or whatever they call it to be a Marine. So, for me personally,
They don't mess about him, right?
I look at him and I think, you know what, proud of the kid. You know, he did box. You know, he never won no titles, but he's now just qualified as a Marine. So me personally, that is better than kids winning world titles. I've done all that, British title. I've done all that. I've been down that road. So, you know, if I do it again, if I go to America like we did before, to Miami or Atlantic City, I've done it all. So when you get a kid like Reece, and we've got a gym full who do something like that, that gives you a big, nice, warm feeling to think, you know what, that's brilliant, that, isn't it? And we've got a gym full of kids like that. So,
what about, I mean, just listening to you say that, what about probably somebody with no talent, no boxing ability, but they come in and they're a shell of themselves, and then in 12 months' time they...
Well, that's what...
Are there examples like that?
Yeah, we've got a kid here who's been training 7 years, and never thought he'd box, and he might never box again. He had his first fight last week at Bayton Working Men's Club, and to him, that was his world title fight. You know, he'd been training all his time here, and it was funny. It was funny to us, not funny to him, because obviously it's his first fight. He didn't know. We know. It's easy once you know, isn't it? Everything's easy once you can do it. But to him, it was his world title fight. And he's always wanted to do it, and I can tick the box and say, I've done it. Whether he has any more fights, I don't know. He might do it. He's only 16. So that's what I like now. When you get a kid who don't know his left hand from his right hand, left up from official, and you teach him to box, they get a medical card and they box in a competition. That to me then is, you've done your job. You can stand by it. That kid will remember that for the rest of his life. No matter what happens, you always remember your first fight. And that's what happened with James and Kingsley, the kid called Kingsley. They'll remember that for the rest of their life. Even though it were only at Bayton Working Men's Club, to them, it was Madison Square Gardens. So that's what I just want to do now. I enjoy doing that. It's good being at gym with kids, and if I can continue to do that, and just make, you know, by kids coming here, if you're making better people, making, you know, and if they go on to be championship boxers, great.
So you'll not be long off a bus pass, no plans to retire?
Oh, next year I've got a bus pass, mate. I don't look like it, they'll go into
It's funny you say that, because I was listening to you talk earlier and I was thinking, all rock stars, you know, are in the 60s, look bob on. You bring it ring off your life, you look bob on. I mean, is that the, you know, is that the...
I don't know, listen, people often, what's the... I don't
mean,
know.
it's hard to believe you became a pro 45 years ago, and you'd already had 35 fights.
I'm still talking, I'm proud of the fight.
I think I've had about 3 fights in my life.
Well, if you look back, 65 pro fights, 35 amateur fights, that's 100 times at least you've been punched in there. And I'm glad to say I'm still talking all right. When I see some of these ex-fighters now, you know, they're talking like, it's scary. I watched a fight at the weekend and I thought, oh my God, this kid needs pulling out. Because it's all right being a hero and getting bashed up, and I saw a picture of him the day after and he looked a mess. But in 10 years' time, when he's blowing bubbles and he can't string a sentence, that's not good advertisement for boxing. So luckily to say I've been retired since 1993. I like to think I'm still all right. We have days when we all have them, when you forget things, you think, oh God. But all in all, if I died tomorrow, I've got no regrets about boxing. I'm glad I did it. Yeah, I can't breathe very well through my nose, and I've got work, but I ain't got nothing bad to say about boxing.
Well, Glyn, Been an absolute
Thanks
pleasure.
for coming,
mate.
fellas.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, so we're a bit warmer.
Yeah, it's all right. That's all we've got time for on today's episode. A fantastic one, I'm sure you'll agree. Me and Trav are off to write the film script and get in touch with Robert De Niro. Be sure to check us out on YouTube and Spotify.
Join us for the next episode of the Winners of Sheffield podcast and hear Dame Julie Kenny's inspirational story.